welcome back to my channel. I am Kabelo Hlupo, and I'm almost tempted to say today we're about to do things a little bit differently, but in all honesty, a little bit different is all we've been doing lately. So welcome back to my channel if you're a returning subscriber, and if you're new, thank you so much for stopping by. Consider subscribing and joining the family. Today's video is, well, you've seen it from the title, but I just wanted to share with you guys because the response to the last video, the birthday vlog, was overwhelming. And for the first time, you guys actually shared with me what you'd like to see on the channel. And this is one of, I want to say highly requested, but one person asking is highly requested in my books. So I'm doing this for the people who asked, or the people who are curious but will not ask me. The reason I'm choosing to do it, even though it's one of those things I feel is opening myself up maybe a lot, is because I sincerely believe my YouTube channel has paved the way for me in so many regards. And this admission, these admissions actually, because there's a few of them, but these things, some of it I attribute to the channel. I say this because the work I do here and off YouTube, but wise as a community that I've always said I'm trying to grow, it's opened a lot of doors. I said that in my previous video. It's one of the things that sincerely I would have never known what it would become when I started. And I think a lot of people from the outside might look at something like this and say, oh, but it's just 265 subscribers. And I just wanted to validate, first of all, you guys who have ridiculously big dreams like I do, that it's all within our reach and we are capable. But more than just that, if you step out in faith, the things that God will do for you, it overwhelms me. And this is not a mushy video. Let's get into how I got admitted into my dream schools, plural. So anyway, the first thing I want to speak about is application timelines. I applied this year, so January of 2022, for the fall intake, which would be August-September intake. Like, I would go to school in September, which is next month, in New York. I'm probably not gonna stop saying that. But yeah, there's early decision, which starts in October through December. So typically from the 15th of October to the 15th of December is early decision. And what early decision is, or if you accept your admission during the early decision phase, is some schools make it compulsory for you to attend. And then there's regular decision, which is December through Feb for other schools. For some, it's November, December, and January. And regular decision is how you apply for any schools when you typically would. And yeah, it's not binding to go. You can actually accept a lot of your admissions if you have multiple, like me. I'm gonna stop now. The intake is still for fall, which is August, September. The third one is rolling admissions, which is essentially you can apply throughout the year at any point. So if today you wanted to apply, you could apply. If in January you missed your other applications and you wanted to squeeze yourself in some place, try looking for a rolling admission universities. So the way I went about looking for schools to apply for, I think this may have been my only criteria really, is I went looking for schools that offer a holistic review process when it comes to applications, because I didn't have like the most mind-blowing grades. I needed for my grades not to be the only thing that was taken into consideration. What the process being holistic speaks to is that your marks are just as important as your essays, which are just important as your references and your CV and your extracurriculars, so far and so on. Like, there's a lot that's required of you. So, but I only went for those kind of universities because I knew I stood a better chance. Because for schools that are particular about the GPA, they'll say a 3.0 GPA or I think first class I think. Yeah. So I didn't want to put myself through that. And so it was difficult, but I knew I stood a better chance doing it this way. So my extracurriculars that helped me get into these universities, and I only bring this up because I know that here at home these are not things we pay attention to. When I applied for admission into the National University of Lesotho, none of the things I'm about to mention ever came up. Like, I've been actively doing things since the beginning of time. I was that child with activities, with drama, with singing, with all of those things I've done since my primary school days, but it's never been important. And I know it's easy to neglect them or to not pay them any mind because you truly almost, I want to say, never need them, because that's not how our education system is set up. But the schools I applied to needed for me to have participated in something. And lucky for me, like I said, I've always had activities all over the place. The first one is obviously my channel. And I don't like, I put it there in front, bold, up there with my name and my address and my phone number. I link my YouTube channel. So that worked in my favor because I was able to demonstrate that I'm already doing some groundwork and laying the foundation towards building the vision. And so that, I said in my last video, opened so many doors for me, and this is one such door, because I, even in my interviews, I got asked the question of, you've said you want to liaise with policy makers and effect policy level changes that will trickle down to community levels. What do you know about policy, and how do you think you can work around the issues you currently have in your country? And that's just one of the many interview questions I was able to answer because of the work I do through WellWise and on the channel. It's been an advantage to me in that I've needed to do a lot of research, and it's informed some of the decisions I make and how I go about planning for the future of WellWise. And then secondly, the fact that I work as a pharmacist. I was applying for a master's in public health, so you would almost assume that just because it's a health-based degree, it would be easy for me to get into a master's program. The reason I call it an extracurricular is that it's not a requirement or a prerequisite for a master's in public health, but I needed to demonstrate that even at my job, what does leadership look like? What does advocacy look like? How do I go above and beyond my scope of duties to show up for the people I claim to be so passionate about? And I was lucky in that I was able to really, really demonstrate, because granted, there's days when you show up because the bills need to get paid, but I believe there's a lot that speaks to my passion in how I show up and do what I do and occupy the spaces I occupy. I just realized that I sound so sure and very confident saying these things, but I believe it's one of the advantages of having gone through the application process. Like, it does that to you. The number of essays you'll need to write and tell them why they should pick you and why you are a good fit or why you deserve a spot in that program. Like, it just does something to you. You become bold and you will tell people, I'm compassionate, I'm humble. And I don't think humble people say I'm humble, but there's a lot about yourself you will discover in this process. There's a lot of your potential you will realize. There's a lot that you will learn about your dreams and your vision and how hard you're willing to go at it and how far you will go to just realize your dream. The third, I think I'm just gonna group them into one. My extracurriculars was all of the clubs and organizations I've run and founded and been a part of. And you need to be careful with this one, because you don't want to look like a person who is like does things half-heartedly and then leaves them. I was a founding member of the Green Culture Club, which was like an environmental movement and university for the Pharmacy Association student chapter, which is the NUL Pharmacy Student Association. I was the vice secretary in my second year. I was the secretary in my third year. I was advisor to the president in my fourth year, and I was also in the Pious Student Residence, the president, in my 4th year. So the only reason I was able to list these and other extracurriculars and organizations that I've been a part of is because I was able to defend that there are that many, and I have left them behind because they were in university. So I can't still be a part of them. But if you've done things here and you've done things over there and you've kind of left all of them, that doesn't paint you in a very good light. So you need to be careful how you list some of these organizations, even if there's a lot of them. I think you need to pick and choose the ones that like are relevant and paint you in the best light. And then number 4 would be that I play tennis. Used to, maybe still do. I just haven't done it in a while. But I was number 3 in the women's team of the National University of Lesotho, because I think in 2017, it may have been in 2017, yeah. We played qualifiers in preparation for the InterVarsity games, and I came in at number 3. So I put in my extracurriculars that, oh hey, I play tennis and I'm pretty good, part of the top 10 baby, and coming in at number 3. So those are the kind of things. When I say holistic, I mean holistic. It doesn't matter. Like of Monday 99, nearly the 80 babes. If you're not doing anything else with your life, you are, they say, you're not a well-rounded person. So yeah. Next is references. And I said this already, but every single part and aspect of your application is important. So you need to be very deliberate, intentional, and particular about the people that you be choosing as your references. I was lucky. I was very fortunate in that the people I ended up needing were the people I'd already built a rapport with. So the first person I chose was the person who'd been my supervisor when I was a student pharmacist, and he'd also worked where I currently work. So the reason I may have gotten the job that I do is because of the conversations I'd had with him, and he was able to vouch for me. I think it's important to mention that he also has a master's in public health. So that is one of the questions I later found out that they asked my references. Are they able to speak to how good a candidate I'll be as a master's of public health student because they've gone and traveled the road before? And for him, the answer was yes. Like, I didn't imagine that would be important, but turns out it mattered. So maybe consider that. I mean, truly, honestly, but maybe it's important to get somebody who has relevant qualifications and experience. I know it's a long shot, but maybe it helps. I don't know. And then the second person was my previous lecturer, and I love her so much, and I'd had so much fun in her classes. Like, I enjoy speaking, so she'd always encourage discourse and debates, and she was like easygoing. Like, I had so much fun in her classes, and my final mark in year 5 for chemistry, imagine chemistry, I got an A for pharmaceutical chemistry. So I didn't choose her because of the mark. I just chose her because of the type of person that she is. Honestly, I think she's one of the best, and I actually knew that the type of person she is and how supportive she'd been as a lecturer and open and accommodating, she wouldn't have a problem writing a reference for me. But I later learned that even as you choose the people who are going to write your references, you need to choose somebody whose story about you will be believable. Because if you go and you choose somebody in whose course you got like a D, and they say you're one of the smartest students they've ever taught, then, and maybe in some places it doesn't really matter, but for me, I've said and I say all of these things, all of these aspects of your application matter. So references are important too. So for me, I think it helped me because I had a good track record with her, and my transcripts could verify that she sincerely had reason to say I was a fantastic student. And then thirdly, I chose my direct supervisor at the time. She was one of the people who encouraged me to apply. I attribute a lot of this, the channel, the successes of this particular journey to her because she's built me up so much. And the reason I chose her is because of the relationship we've built, but more than it just being about her liking me as a person and believing in me and my capabilities, is that I've worked under her and she knows what I'm capable of. She knows what my key performance indicators were and how I've met the requirements of the job. Having her in my application speaks towards my competencies in the work field and how I would be suited to use my master's in public health post graduation. So that's how I chose my references, and I believe that's how they helped me gain admission into into these schools. And now for the hard part, I have here, I brought my notebook. I'm gonna be looking down regularly because I had to put these down. Arguably the most taxing part of the application process is every time you have to like enter your card details and all of that money is leaving your account. But I share this because I want for money to not be a deterrent, because yeah, I paid a lot of money. It was expensive, and that's subjective, but in reality I think it's always good to know the numbers. But more than just that, I share this to say I incurred a lot of expenses and you don't need to. I have my reasons for choosing to do it this way, but not all people need to do it the way I did, and I'll tell you why. I'll also show you how. So the first thing I paid for was my WES evaluation. WES stands for World Education Services, and that's your US equivalency. So SAGA for South Africa, like what we do if you're trying to apply for schools in South African universities. So I paid for the evaluation and the international courier services. The evaluation cost, oh, I paid in dollars, but I'll break it down in rands, which are equal to Maluti. So today the dollar is 16 rand 78 cents. So that's what I'll be using to multiply. But I paid $208 for the credentials evaluation, and I paid $75 for the international courier services. And in rands, that's 4,748 rands 48 cents. And then they require official transcripts, and official transcripts are transcripts that are sent directly from your university, and they are sealed because they show your actual mark. Like they don't just say you got an A plus, they will say you got a 85 or 92. So I needed those transcripts, and for the transcript you pay 500, and for your degree certificate you pay 2,000, and then for DHL to courier your sealed transcripts you pay 750. So that came to 2,500 rands plus 750. And then there's application fees. So there's 3 schools. I applied to Boston University, to New York University, and George Washington University. Now for accredited schools, you apply through SOFAs, which is Schools of Public Health Application Services, and you pay $140 and then 50 per additional application. So I ended up paying $240 for application fees through SOFAs, and that is 4,027 rands 20 cents in rands. And then I needed to take my IELTS exam. So for my exam I paid 4,600 rands, and I traveled also because obviously there's no IELTS center in Lesotho. So I needed to pay for room and board, food, shopping. I kid, but I ended up spending a lot of money, over 10,000, on things that were not the booking fee for my exam. But I think that's just because I was actually sleeping at a spa resort. You don't need to do that. I think you could drive in the night before and then drive back immediately after your exam. It's a whole day exam because I had it from 9 to 12 and then from 2 to 3. But if you really needed to do it differently, you could drive. Maybe the only night you would need to spend at a hotel was one night, I think it could come to maybe say 5,400, so that we give it a round figure of 10,000, because you also need to pay for, not need to, you could watch it on YouTube, but some people pay for study material. So it's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of different ways you would need to navigate the situation. But I think to be on the safe side, I mean, considering that I paid for it when it cost 4,600, which was less than 6 months ago, but now it costs 4,800. So it's always like that test is expensive. So let's just say you could end up paying around 10,000 for travel, preparation material, for food, for board, and for the exam. So 10,000. And then lastly, you need to pay your admission fees. My admission fee for NYU was $500, and my admission fee for GW was $300. So that's $800, which would have been 13,424 rands. And you pay this whether you are going that year or you are deferring. But like I said, I also am going to be showing you guys how you could go about it differently and end up paying a lot less than what I needed to. So anyway, the total came down to 35,449 rands 94 cents, which is plus minus $2,116.40. I gotten admission into Liverpool also, and they had given, by the time I was still trying to negotiate for funding here, they gave me £5,000 worth of scholarship for my master's in the UK. So I ended up declining these ones to go for that one. And then there's other stories with regards to my application process and schools in the UK, but that's not what this video is about. So let's talk funding, because I said I shared this to say, yes, I want to give you an accurate and realistic picture of how much you may need to end up spending on applications, but I also want to let you guys know that it's not impossible. These programs offer beautiful, beautiful, comprehensive scholarships. Well, some of them, but they are available. And if you meet that criteria, you stand a really, really good chance of actually making it to your dream school. So the type of scholarships that are available, well, at least where I was doing my research and for the schools that I applied for, there's need-based scholarships and there's merit-based scholarships. Merit-based scholarship would be where maybe they specify and say for everybody who's gotten a 3.0 GPA and above, they cover your tuition, either partially or fully. Some schools don't even specify. For both of these schools that I got into, they say everybody who gains admission is automatically considered for a merit-based scholarship. And then for a need-based scholarship, you have to demonstrate financial need in order to qualify. The third, which is assistantships and like working at the university. So you could be a research assistant or teaching assistant. I think there's a third one, I just don't remember. I was looking to be a research assistant, and the reason I specifically went for those is because in my application process, the thing that I think also helped me is that I went for universities that offer the program I was looking for, but there were professors and people who were doing work that is similar to what I want to dedicate my life's work to also. Lastly, I think I would be amiss if I didn't bring up the issues of factors you need to consider before accepting your offer for admission or even applying. You don't need to pay all of that money that I paid. And here's how. Let's work the numbers and see how much money you can shave off the number that we worked earlier if you went for a different school or a different application route or whatever. So for example, I didn't write my GRE even for the universities that I applied to. So there's that. I didn't edit on earlier because I didn't need to. I wrote to the universities and they agreed that I could apply without it. So there's that. It's a lot of money you would have saved. For my IELTS also, you don't need to take any English proficiency exam. There's schools that will accept whatever documentation you have that proves that majority or all of your education has been conducted in English, so you don't need to take the IELTS. So I didn't even need to take my IELTS. I got an exemption, but I didn't know. So I ended up using it for application in schools in the UK. So there's that. There's the 10,000 you can shave off by not taking your IELTS, but work around finding universities that will either waive the requirement or accept alternative to test scores. And then 3, the schools that accept unofficial transcripts. You would need to find those schools that will accept your PDF or scanned document of the file that you do have. So you would have saved on the WES evaluation. And then there's schools that also do not have application fees. For example, I know schools that will waive the fee if you have a coupon, and the way which you get a coupon is once you start applying, they'll start sending you emails to tell you that they have a virtual fair or an open day. And if you attend some of those Zoom calls, at the end, they give you a coupon which you can use to either get a discount on your application fee or have it waived altogether. And then there's schools which, if you demonstrate financial need, will waive the application fee. So I would have saved the $240 that I paid applying through SOFAS. But like I said, now I had my reasons for choosing to do it this way. I didn't have the greatest test scores, so I already had my GRE waived. I didn't want to apply half-heartedly. Like, after people already grant you this courtesy and privilege to say, okay, don't take the GRE, even in tomorrow you email it and say, oh, can you waive my application fee? Could you also waive my IELTS requirement? I didn't want to be that person. So I figured I don't have the greatest test scores. My transcripts are late because they were. Like, WES's service was bad. Okay, so what else can you get a waiver for? Okay, so even if you're applying for schools through a centralized body like SOFAS is for the schools of public health, they also offer waivers. So again, you would need to demonstrate financial need, or for SOFAS, there's also a service-based waiver, which is if your guardian or anybody, I think, in your family has served in the military, you can get a waiver. Or if you've served with the Peace Corps, you can get a waiver, like things like that. If you've worked for the federal government, you can get a waiver. So there's always ways. You just need to do your research, find out which waivers you can get, find out which schools you can apply to that don't have all of these requirements. And yeah, you should, it's not too bad. I just did it in a way that I felt gave me the best chances to gain admission, and it worked for me. I'm just saying you don't have to go through all that. The second factor I think you will need to consider is the cost of living and how you are going to be financing all of that. Even if you get a scholarship, if it's a partial scholarship, like I've already said, I ended up needing to look into assistantships. There's also student loans, and there's actually student loans for international students. But you need to consider, is it really worth all of this? Like, you would need to get in debt $80 to cover tuition, cost of living. Because I remember rent in a room that's smaller than Gumia Payas, like in a room that's almost the size of a toilet, really, because you can fit a bed and not much else, really. Nearly $1,200 a month. Can't go no household. There's transport, there's utilities. Hey, don't even get me started on the tuition if you're gonna be paying out of pocket. So there's all of those costs that even if you get a scholarship, you need to pay all else. And Can you afford to? And then there's issues of culture shock. New York University, for example, has a no campus where there's no one place Motungi University. The university has buildings in all of New York. So one class or one building will be in this part of town, and then the other building will be in that other part of town. So again, that speaks to the cost, because the commute, and honestly, it's New York. Would you want to need to figure all of that out? If not, don't go, or apply to universities in a smaller town. Consider these things. Try to find something that works for you, something that's suitable for you, something that's practical for you. Also, there's the risk benefit analysis. I think you need to consider, like, do the mathematics, because for example, if you get a merit-based scholarship from GW, they said you need to have a 3.0 GPA for your merit-based scholarship. So what that means is, sometimes these universities will say things like, oh, we offer, or we have, or we automatically consider every student we admit for merit-based scholarships. Sounds nice, sounds perfect, sounds ideal. But what that means is they will admit you even if you have a low GPA, like I had. But for you to be able to keep your scholarship, is you can't get anything that's lower than a 3.0 GPA for the duration of your master's program. So to continue being a research assistant or teaching assistant, and to have your tuition waived or partially paid for, you have to constantly and consistently be on your best. Like, I'm not saying utatazele, because what if you get something lower? I'm just saying you need to be cognizant of this, and life happens to the best of us. If something happens and you get a 2.9 or a 2.5, and all of these nice and beautiful and perfect gifts that you have get taken away, what do you do when you are in New York and you no longer have your stipend from being a teaching assistant? Now you don't have your tuition paid, you have health insurance. There's a lot. And again, I'm not saying be afraid or don't seize opportunities, because what if? I'm just saying, let's be realistic. These are some of the realities that exist with opportunities like this. And then lastly, you would be on an F1 visa, which is the student visa. I think there's also a lot of things and complexities that come with being on that type of visa, the working hours, and if or like batala some of the expenses by working while you study. There's hour restrictions. I think you can work 20 hours per week, and then minimum wage or student wage, and then tax, and then the things I learned after I was admitted and I was researching about how these things work. It's a lot. Do your research. I've highlighted you, I believe, on some of the key issues, but yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a blessing. It's a privilege. It's an incredible honor and a privilege to, I mean, these schools, man, they are ranked up there with Harvard and Princeton and Yale, because I think on that list, on the top schools in the US for public health, Harvard, Yale, another fancy Ivy League, and then Boston, number 3. Me, I applied. And then George Washington is number 9, and NYU is number 11. It just blew my mind. It continues to blow my mind. But yeah, I did it. If I did it, with how many times I had to cry, and how many times I gave up, and how many things went wrong, and my undergrad grades, please, if I did it sincerely, if you're watching this, if you clicked on this because you have some interest, you can do it. And with all of this information that I've shared with you, with all of the information that exists out there, with all of the funding, the scholarships, the opportunities, it's just go for it. Go for your Harvards, your Yales, Princeton, John Hopkins. Oh yeah, that's number 2, John Hopkins. I think that's it. I think this is gonna be a very long video, but it's an important video. Thank you so much for showing this much interest in the channel and the a little bit different things I've come to enjoy doing and sharing with you guys. Thank you so much for welcoming me and supporting me always. Thank you so much for the opportunities that have come as a result of your support on the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I do not take it for granted. Thank you. Share this with your siblings, your younger brother, your younger sister, your younger cousin who still wants to pursue some fancy foreign Ivy League degree. I kid. But yeah, share this with a friend of a friend of a friend. Join the family by hitting the notification gang so that you're notified every time I upload a new video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Also, please continue to let me know what other different things you'd like to see on the channel so that I continue to make videos like this, which are way out of my comfort zone and not what I would typically share, but we've come to learn how to do them and we are enjoying them. So let's continue. Let me know what you want to see more of.